Hello and welcome to The Green Stream, a podcast brought to you by Sustainable Business Network Detroit, a network of partnerships between Southeast Michigan stakeholders, innovators, and changemakers. Each partner is on a mission to advance and amplify sustainable business practices, and we're here to learn from, share, and help activate a sustainable way forward for Greater Detroit. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review and join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And head over to our website, sbn-detroit.org. Now, let's listen in to our conversation with today's sustainability leaders.
Well, hello, and thank you for joining us on the Green Stream today. I'm Terry Barclay, President and CEO of Inforum, and Chair of the Sustainable Business Network of Detroit, the sponsor of the Green Stream podcast. And I'm really excited about today's guest, Robert Jackson, who is Executive Director at Restart at Lawrence Tech University. And I think the idea behind this program, Robert, is so exciting and so needed. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what you can share with us about it. But could you start by sharing a little bit about your background and how you got to do the work that you're doing with Restart?
Sure. I think I'm blessed, number one. And I want to thank you, Terry, for inviting me to be part of the podcast. So I think it started a couple of years ago. I was in the process of retiring from state government. And I had always knew that there was this program called Restart. And it was formerly called RETAP, Retired Engineers Technical Assistance Program, which offered energy efficiency assistance to businesses across the state. And I thought, well, gee, this is something great, why not apply to do that after I retire? So I went to Lawrence Tech website where they were hiring, and I noticed that, they were hiring for restarters, the folks that go out into the field. And they were also hiring for an executive director. And my thought was, well, what about the executive director position? I think I'm qualified. Former energy office director. I oversaw the state's sustainability programs, including recycling, next cycle for a number of years. And I was the former chair of the National Pollution Prevention Roundtable for a few years. I chaired the National Association of State Energy Officials for a number of years, and I served on the Department of Energy's State Energy Advisory Board. And I was currently, at the time when I applied, I was serving on the American Council for an Energy Efficiency Economy, ACEEE, which focused on energy efficiency and sustainability. And I thought, whoa, and I had also been on some of the former governor's energy and sustainability task force. And I thought, I qualify. So I have
Just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit qualified.
So I applied, I interviewed, and the rest is history. They hired me to be the executive director of the Restart program.
So you just couldn't stay retired. Yeah.
I always thought that I had a little bit more to offer.
Very cool. Well, so tell us some more about this really fascinating program. And who sponsors it? I think it's a combination of Eagle and LTU, but tell us about the team of retired subject matter experts. I just think this is such a great idea. I'm trying to remember the stat about the number of people who are retiring, each day in this country.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it seems like there's just a phenomenal amount of talent out there, especially, subject matter experts in electrification and mobility, grid resilience, energy efficiency, all those areas where we have such a big need. So, tell us more about the program.
So the program is a collaboration between Lawrence Tech and the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. And we work out of the Energy Sustainability and Waste Management Group, where we're looking at, again, energy efficiency, sustainability, recycling, as well as, how do we divert waste from manufacturing processes from the state's landfills. Um, the program, again, which stands for retired engineers, scientists, administrators, researchers, and teachers, which all, truncate and shorten it to just retired professionals. It has a number of parts to it. One part is the on-site assessments, and those are our core activities, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a minute. And then the second part is what we call our subject matter experts, and those are the folks that have expertise in energy efficiency, sustainability, recycling, waste management, water conservation, grid resiliency, and other areas of importance, not only to the industry, but to the state and in contribution to the state's climate goals. And then we operate a student internship program where we offer students to place them in a manufacturing setting to get, experience over the summer on working on an energy efficiency or sustainability project. And then we also work with the business community, our clients, to help them find the funding to implement the recommendations out of some of the core activities. In regards to the technical assistance portion of it, what we try to do is we try to find retired individuals with expertise in a particular area that the client needs, and then we do that placement. They'll go to the site, they'll do some assessments and, do an assessment, and they'll do an evaluation. On the core program, the core subject matter expert portion of it is slightly different. They do it remotely. They also provide guidance if a company needs, let's say, some expertise on integrating, let's say, EVs into buildings, then yes, they will help them do that. If they need some idea of how to size a solar system, they'll do that too. All of our work in terms of the renewables, solar, wind, battery storage is behind the meter. And I just want to clarify that. And then in the students, we go out and we recruit them, and we do that placement. So, yeah, I mean, there's the 3 programs that we offer. And here's the thing. So when we started the program, there was a lot of interest for it within the state, and there's still interest within the state. But we're finding out that other states are interested in replicating our model. And so we're having conversations with others in terms of, how do they start a restart program within their state to provide these services. Where we differ than some organizations that provide these assistance is that we provide assistance when needed, as directed by the state. When the governor wants to implement the policy, the department wants to develop programs, and once those programs are developed, they need someone to help them implement, and that's what we do. And so we're very we're able to be flexible, and we're able to pivot as to when, what the need is, and direct resources to it. If let's say if the department needs someone with expertise in grid resiliency, I go out and find a retired person from the utilities that's willing to do that. So that's our flexibility, and we respond quickly to the need.
Oh, Robert, I have so many questions. Maybe because you mentioned behind the meter. What does that mean?
Okay, so imagine this. So there's 2 agencies within the state that look at energy efficiency specifically. So there is the Public Service Commission, which looks at generation and looks at the transmission of power from the point of generation to a facility
Got it.
that uses that power. It can be clean energy generated through solar, through wind, through geothermal, or it can be natural gas or something to that effect. And you bring that power to the meter, and that's your fuse box, or to make it simpler. but yeah, to the meter, and then from the meters inside of the building. Okay. And when you think about those things, so the Public Service Commission regulates everything from the point of generation to the meter. And you look at what the energy officer, what we do is that we look at those things that are behind the meter. And so when I say that we work on renewables behind the meter, a company decides to, let's say, put in solar panels on their roof. Well, that's behind the meter. It's not being generated out there in the field. It's being generated on the solar, on the rooftop. Um, or let's say that the company has a lot of space and they wanted to put in, wind turbines, they can do that behind the meter. However, you need storage in order for it to be effective to use it 24/7. And so those things are all behind the meter. There's the solar panels, they're, generated from solar, from wind. There's the storage. Those things are behind the meter. And so that's what we focus on. When we work with a company to help them become sustainable and to reduce their carbon footprint, we look at that. It doesn't have to be, a manufacturer. It can be a building them. It can be a K through 12 school. It could be a house of worship. Those are some of our clients that we work with on behind the meter renewables.
Thank you for that clarification. I suspected that was what you meant, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't some other phrase that was meant to describe something else. But you started talking about who your customers are, and could you go into that in a little more depth? How do you provide your services, and who are your, what you do some services at no cost to some qualified
Right.
Michigan businesses, right? So what's the threshold for that? How does that work?
So we put our clients into two categories. One, private sector, and that's any entity with 500 employees or less statewide. The other class are not-for-profits and institutions of any size. It doesn't matter the number of employees or individuals working in the building, we provide that service. And that also includes, K through 12, houses of worship, municipal government, state government, any not-for-profit. Now, on terms of on the manufacturer and the commercial side, as I said, we work with, any building type, so long as, there's, 500 or less employees within that building. And within that corporation statewide, and they're typically small, medium-sized businesses who we work with. We do so at no cost. There's no cost to the client. We go in, we provide technical assistance. And I should say, we're not the only organization that provides this kind of assistance, but we're different in a way that we use retired professionals. So if a client has a problem that they can't really put their finger on, they're looking at their energy bill and they notice that, well, it's high, and they need some type of help trying to identify, well, where is the waste? Not only in terms of waste in the energy, electricity or gas, or in water or some other material, and they're looking for a solution to that problem, some way to reduce. And if they didn't give us a call, and then we are there to help them, guide them through the process. We'll come on site. We will do a walkthrough, look at the various parts of their operation, and advise them on potential solutions to it. We try to recommend things that are reasonable, prudent, and that can be easily implemented within the company's means. Then, and in terms of what we do for K through 12 schools, it's basically the same. We will come in, we will do an energy audit, we will look at the lighting, we would look at the hydration systems, we'll look at the HVAC systems, and we'll make a series of recommendations of what they can do to be more efficient. One of the things that the Restart program did during the onset of COVID was it was looking at, well, what needed to be done within the K through 12 school, public schools to make those schools, I'm not going to say safe, but more um, ease of mind to reopen. And so they went in, they did a series of assessments, and they identified what these opportunities were. They were able to create a profile of where these schools were and their readiness to open and what they needed to do in order to ensure that they were reasonably safe and reasonable for them to operate under that situation. And so those are things that we do in the Restart program.
What a valuable service, and so needed. And I truly appreciate, as I talk to small and mid-sized business owners, the thing that I often hear is that sustainability is counter to cost savings, that people see it as an expense, and are unclear about what, if any, return on investment there really is. If
Right.
they're uncertain about how to tackle it, like, or whether it's even worth the energy and the time to tackle. And it sounds like you really help people sort that out.
Yeah, that's kind of what our focus is at. We don't go into a building and say, "Wow, there's 1,000 things wrong with your building, and it's going to cost you millions of dollars to
Right.
make these corrections." No, that's not our focus. That's not even realistic. What we try to do is have a conversation with the client, try to understand what is their needs, and then prioritize them in terms of, what you can do immediately, what you should be planning for in the long term, and how much this is going to cost you, how to plan for it. And then we try to work with them to help them find and secure funding to implement, the recommendations that we think that are important to them, or help them finance the recommendations that are coming out of an internal work group within that organization of things that they want to do. Or we even work, oftentimes we find out is that as we're having that conversation, when they call us in to talk about what it is that they want to do, what they want to do isn't feasible. And so we help guide them and center them. Again, because the folks that we're sending in to do this assistance, they're retired professionals. They worked in that industry. They know they have a very good idea of what are some of the practical solutions that can be easily implemented within that organization, that because this is important too, is that not only that can be done to help the company become more profitable and sustainable, but also easy to operate and easy to maintain.
Mhm.
We find that a number of situations, we'll go make you can make a recommendation. Company could love the idea, go implement the recommendation, but the equipment or the system that you're proposing to be put in place is not maintained. And so within 4 or 5 years, they're in the same situation. So we try to help them focus their attention on, look, these are important, here's the things that you need to do. And oh, by the way, as you're thinking through this, you need to put in a preventative maintenance schedule to make sure that this equipment operates at peak performance throughout.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That just brings up so many memories of experiences that I've had in the past where preventive maintenance wasn't done and how it created such a big problem. It feels like, Robert, you've just been describing sort of what sustainability means to you and to this program. You kind of mentioned several elements of sustainability. Is there anything you want to add to that? You kind of talked about that cycle of not
Um,
just the initial effort, but the maintenance and.
Right. So when I think about sustainability, there's the classical definition, how do you make your environment sustainable or your work sustainable in a sense that the resources that you're using are still available for future generations. And that's something that we're conscious of and we think about as we go out and we do our work. But we're also thinking, and we're consciously aware of this, is that a business has to be profitable. Okay, and it has to be, and there's a bit of sustainability there, because if not profitable, you can't hire. There's there's this employment thing that you have to think about, in order for us to enjoy the fruits of life. But at the same time, there has to be this balance. How do you balance being a clean corporate citizen, and balance that with your earnings and what your stockholders need. So for me, it's striking that balance between the two. How do we preserve our natural resources and use them as a good steward? And at the same time, how do we help this business become profitable and sustainable within the marketplace?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things, I didn't talk about this, but this is another service that we offer. When we go in and we do these assessments, if we see that there's a certain technology that is causing this waste that they're seeing, either waste in energy or waste in materials, we can plug them into Launch Tech through their hardware accelerator, or we try to get them into one of the national labs and through one of their programs to help the company become more profitable. So we see sustainability that way. Sustainability in terms of your business practice, and sustainability in terms of maintaining your the resources that are available to you.
So how are you integrating your work with sort of those big long-term or longer-term goals, like the My Healthy Climate Plan, which is laying out the vision for the state to achieve economy-wide carbon neutrality by 2050? Big goal.
Right. So the way that Restart looks at this, and I'll blend the governor's My Healthy Climate Plan goals into the Restart goals. Restart works under 5 pillars. One is working with communities to help them reach their decarbonization goals. The second part of it is that Restart works with industry to help them transition to a low carbon future. The third, Restart works with entities to allow everyone to have access to solar. Then the fourth is clean transportation. Everybody should have access to clean transportation and mobility. And the fifth is everybody should have access to a clean energy job. I mean, those are our pillars. Those are the things that we stand on within the Restart program. And then when you look at, what the governor is trying to achieve through their carbon, through her carbon neutrality or carbon decarbonization goals or plans for the My Healthy plan, getting there by the year 2050 and, half the way there by 2030. When you look at those things, it blends in quite nicely. Prior to retirement, I co-chaired the My Healthy Climate Plan's intensive industries work group. And when some of the things that we had been talking about in that work group, I carry over into the Restart program. And that is, in order to help companies reduce their GHG emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions, and to become more sustainable, we knew that you needed to do at least 3 things. The big thing is that you needed to electrify, and and we mean by electrify, meaning that let's use a low carbon fuel source, bringing that to the company, bringing it to the meter, and then making that available for a company to utilize that low carbon energy within their processes to reduce their GHG emissions. The second part of it is that we knew that you get halfway there in reducing your GHG emissions with the low carbon fuel, but you also needed to change the the company's processes in order to effectively utilize that low carbon fuel. And that meant that you needed to go out, you needed a group to provide technical assistance. And then the third thing, in order to reduce the GHG emissions within a manufacturer, is that you have to look at low carbon materials to be used in your process. So at the end of the day, what you ship out the door, there's less carbon in that product, which meant that there will be less GHG emissions being evolved, whether or not they're type 1, type 2, type 3 emissions. And so when you look at those components, they fit in with the concept of what we're trying to do within the Restart program. Again, encouraging business to utilize low carbon fuel. And that comes into play when we think about, in our recommendations, using, behind the meter renewables, or encouraging a company, if they can, think about using a low carbon fuel source for their operation. And then the second part is that we go in, we do the assessments, we identify efficiency or inefficiencies within the process, and we make recommendations on how they can become more efficient. And then if they need, we can have a restarter help them think through about how they're going to change that process and how they're going to find the finances to do that improvement. And then the third, as I had mentioned, looking at low carbon feedstock, part of our recommendations offer that too. Like, have you thought about substituting this raw material for another raw material that has less carbon in it, less impact on the environment, to reduce their GHG emissions? And then we would work with them to help them find a supplier to provide them with that material. So yeah, so the way that our program is designed to blend in with the governor's climate goals.
That's just fabulous. I just have to say, what a valuable service, and thank you for sharing those examples. It's just delightful and refreshing to hear about practical support and advice and guidance for companies that are looking at this, because I think so many, just especially small to mid-sized businesses, just don't have the staff to internally to devote to this. And they're looking at goals that are similar to what much larger, better resourced companies have, and it can feel really overwhelming. At least that's what I hear a lot from people, and it sounds like you're sort of demystifying that and breaking it down.
We try, and we have a number of partners too. Like, we're working with the Detroit 2030 district.
Yeah,
they do assessments on commercial buildings. We work with them and we try to help them, provide them with the support that they need to be successful. And we do the same thing for the Washtenaw County 2030 district. And we're working, we offer our services through to City of Southfield through their sustainability program. We're hoping that we'll be able to do the same thing through the City of Detroit. Our goal really is to form these partnerships where we can offer our service and we can add to the valuable service that the entity is offering to their clients.
So I've been wanting to ask you this question, so I'm just going to ask it. Are you, we've heard a lot about the talent shortages in our state and that companies are facing. Do you have enough restarters that you've been able to find?
So it was slow at the very beginning. I mean, when you think of, it was slow trying to recruit retirees to actually come out of retirement and to do work. But now we're finding that it's fairly easy to locate them and get them involved. And then, unfortunately, what's happening with the automotive industry, where they're encouraging early retirement, we're getting more folks through that avenue. So the answer to your question really is no, we're finding them. Our biggest challenge is this, is not so much finding the restarters. Um, we can find them in Southeast Michigan. We can find them in mid-Michigan and in the western part of the state. The challenge is really is to finding them in the northern portion of the state and up in the Upper Peninsula. That's where we're seeing our greatest challenge. And so we're going to do more marketing to try to locate and recruit, retired professionals up in the Upper Peninsula, because I think there's a need for that for our work and services there too.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot happening in the Upper Peninsula. If you haven't checked in on that lately, I would encourage everyone to do that. It's really remarkable what's going on in the UP. So thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for answering the question. 'Cause, it's I'm just so delighted to hear that you're keeping that talent deployed in the state. That's really, really important for Michigan's future. So, so can you share some of the successes, the successful outcomes or success stories you've been able to achieve?
Um, yeah, so I think so. So the more recent ones have been, remember, I guess at the very beginning, so that we're pretty flexible. We try to adjust our services to meet the company's needs or meet our clients' need when they need it. And so we did a couple of assessments at manufacturers in mid-Michigan where they were having some problems. And I can't identify the company themselves
No.
because a lot of our work is confidential, but I'll just describe what the need was. They were discharging, I would say, high concentration of the um, BLDs to local wastewater treatment plant. And it was putting them in a situation where this increased discharge of, of this material was increasing their costs, their sewage costs. And it was they also had a problem with their high electrical bills that they were getting. And so we were able to help them find someone, and they couldn't afford industrial waste treatment, and they were below the threshold, the regulation that required it. So we were able to find a company that would take this material and process it and recycle it and reuse it in another operation in another company that was nearby. And so there was a huge savings there we were able to help them with. Um, there was a kind of a house of worship that we had been working with. They were looking to transition into a resiliency center for the community. And we were able to help them spec and find the resources to install solar. Um, that's the second, I think, case that we were able to help recently. I mean, we've done a number. And then in terms of K through 12 schools, um, by the time I think this interview airs, there will be a grant program that will be implemented by Eagle through the My Healthy School K through 12 grant program. And so we work with a number of schools to help prepare them to apply for grant funding to implement LED lighting, HVAC systems, space heating within the schools. So I think that's probably one of the things I'm more proud of is that, our ability to be there when needed and to respond to the need as needed. So.
Well, those are fantastic stories. That's really must be very satisfying to take projects like that to conclusion and get people launched in a new direction that's productive and meets their goals.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for doing that. So, Robert, as we wind up our time, I'd really like to ask you you've got such tremendous perspective, experience, and skills. What would you like to see more of, more happening in terms of effective sustainability initiatives in the city of Detroit?
I think the city of Detroit is doing a lot
Yes, they are.
towards being sustainable. And I know that they're looking at doing solar farms, and I think that that is a great and it's aspirational, and I hope that they're able to do that. I think that right now, I mean, this is just, this is more on the residential side than it is on the commercial side. Because I think, commercially, on the commercial side, we're trying to help as much as we can. But there's a huge opportunity for the residents of the city of Detroit, homeowners, to take advantage of the programs that are being offered through the state, through the Department of Energy, and that's the high energy efficiency home rebate programs, where the state is offering state is using funding from the federal government to make available to homeowners for them to take advantage of to do appliance replacements. And the state is aware that it may not be feasible for all to take to go out and make that initial purchase. And so they're trying to put in place programs that help with the financing. And even, my goal would be if they could do some debt forgiveness, that would be great too. But I see this as an enormous opportunity for the citizens of Detroit, that if they're able to take advantage of these home energy efficiency rebate programs, to take advantage of them.
Mm-hmm.
It can make their homes more comfortable, sustainable, and we always think about, well, I want to make my home energy efficient, then I can save some money on my energy bills, and I can pay whatever, I can use that funds to pay off some debt or in other improvements within the home. But we don't think about the comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the energy efficiency makes your home more comfortable and more healthier too.
Yeah.
We find that if you do these measures, that they become, your home becomes more healthier, you go to the doctor less, you're able to live in your home longer. And so if you were to ask me, what are the one thing that I think in terms of sustainability in the city of Detroit, I would say for the residents to take advantage of the home energy efficiency credits and rebates that are going to be being made available through the state and through the Department of Energy.
That's great, and that's perfect. And gosh, I could share examples from my own life about making those investments and ending up saving money and more comfortable. It's hard to imagine when you're faced with a decision, but if you ever have the experience of going through that, it's pretty eye-opening, and it's so great to hear that there's support available, which is, critically important to success. So, Robert, it sounds like you're excited and hopeful for the future.
I am, yes. I think I lived through the Recovery Act. I mean, that was one of the things that I worked on in state government. But now there's so much resources that are available to both the public and private sector, that I encourage everyone, if they can take advantage of the programs that are out there now, to take advantage of them. The Recovery Act was a once in a lifetime. This is the once in a generation.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a lot of things that we can do to become more sustainable. And there's a lot of things that we can individually do to contribute to the success of the governor's climate plan. So I'm just happy that I'm able to do my part.
Well, Robert Jackson, thank you for joining us on the Green Stream today, and thank you for doing your part. We're lucky to have you doing this work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Sustainable Business Network Detroit, the Green Stream podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to follow us on SBN-Detroit.org and stay tuned for more conversations on sustainability from inside and around the city.